What is going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us again for another live edition of Closers. I am James DeGreek, and with me, as always, the former first-round pick for the Giants, the former closer for the Mariners, the former Met, the former Yankee, the former Indian, the former Dodger, former Blue Jay, former Red Sox, former Cardinal, former Brave. I don't know. Is there anybody else I'm missing? Mr. David Arzma.
I feel like there are, but I got lost after like two.
Did I say White Sox and Cubs?
White Sox, Cubs, Red Sox, Mariners, Yankees. Did I say Red Sox? A lot of them. Just I don't know, like almost half.
You know, I heard a very
Duck.
good...
Don't forget Duck.
Oh, can't forget a Duck. I heard something very interesting the other day on MLB Network, and they were saying that you can tell how good a reliever is by how many teams he's played on.
I don't know if that's a good thing. That seemed to me like a bad thing.
Well, they were talking about your friend LaTroy Hawkins when they did that.
Well, like I would actually say, if you play on like one team, I mean, that means you're pretty dang good, right? Like they don't ever want to get rid of you. I had 14 teams want me. I had like 14 teams want to get rid of me.
Well, you know the old saying that Ric Flair has? He never talks about how many times he won the championship. He just said that I lost the championship 16 times.
Yes.
Yep.
I've never heard that. I don't think anybody's ever heard that.
Okay, so I see that you are wearing your Blue Jays shirt today. It's quite interesting that you're going to be wearing that because we are going to start with your former team, the Toronto Blue Jays. And oh, what a tangled web we weave. A lot of stuff going on. And it seems like right now the baseball world is centering around my New York Mets and the Toronto Blue Jays. It has been said by a few sources that the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Mets might be in conversations to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to the New York Mets, as the New York Mets have not gotten Pete Alonso yet. David, what do you think about this?
This is interesting. I look at this and say, would I rather give up a bunch or give up anything for a great player? Vladdy is an incredible player. Or just pay the man his money for the dude you already know and the dude you already like and the guy who is incredibly like consistent. And maybe I'm just crazy here. Maybe I just want to say this and no one else believes me. But Alonso's hit more home runs than Vladdy. And I think he's a better first baseman, and I think he's probably a better all-around player for the Mets, since he's the guy they know, the guy they have, and they've had a lot of success with him there. Like, it blows my mind. Why pay for a rental? Why pay a whole bunch of players for a rental when you can just sign the guy you have and you like? And I get it. Vladdy's younger. Vladdy's incredibly talented, but we also know Vladdy's a little this. Like, he's really good and really, and like this year he started out cold and then he ended up being amazing at the end. And I'm like, okay, what has Vladdy brought to the Toronto Blue Jays? What have they done? They've done absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing since he's been there. I know it's not all on him by any means. He's done his part of it. And he's had a one incredible year and one very good year. But Alonso's been insanely consistent. And Alonso's bad year, his horrible year this year, would still be an average to decent year for Vladdy.
Call me a conspiracy theorist, but I believe that this whole thing is just a ruse by the New York Mets to say, hey, we might be exploring other options. Pete, you want to stay here? Now's the time. And of course, last night, John Heyman, probably because Scott Boras told them to, sent out a tweet that the Mets and Pete Alonso are making progress on a 3-year deal, but they are still having problems figuring out how much cash. None of this surprises me. I have a feeling the Mets are using Vlad Guerrero as leverage so they can finally close this deal with Pete Alonso. We know they want him. Pete Alonso wants to be there. And he'll get an opt-out after 1 year, and if he decides to opt out, that's when the Mets are going to pounce on Vladdy. I agree with you. I don't think there's any reason why they have to go out and sell a whole bunch of guys from their farm system to get a rental, unless there is a window for exclusive negotiations with Vladdy, and then that's a completely different story.
So like they would, even if they would bring him in, right? The Mets would be paying almost $29 million. Okay. That's basically Alonso. Okay. So it's almost a wash. Plus, it's a 1-year player where Alonso, you're going to get 3 to 5 or whatever that contract's going to end up being, 3 with the options, whatever Heyman's talking about. I agree with you on the idea that the Mets use this to push Alonso ahead, to give a little punch, right? Because who else are they going to use against him? A lot of the first baseman market's already gone. So I do like this. I think that's a very smart move. At the same time, like, don't get me wrong, if you don't like Alonso and you don't want to pay for him and you don't get him, Vladdy's not the worst option in the world. It's not like you're complaining having Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on that team, especially with the team you've built, like with Soto, Lindor, and everybody. That the whole feeling of the Latin feeling of that clubhouse last year. It's not the worst thing in the world, right? Trust me, I would absolutely take, probably, given the age and everything, I'd probably take Vladdy over Alonso in a long term, but you're never going to get Vladdy for the amount of money and maybe questions on the consistency like you have with Alonso.
Here's the question. Is there any chance that the Mets get both Alonso and Vlad? They still need a DH.
Ooh.
I mean, if they're talking about getting Vlad, and then they
can they afford it with the Soto deal? And I know Verlander and Scherzer now are off the books, right?
They're $40 million or around $40 million below where the salary was, where they were last year.
That becomes an incredible lineup. I don't know how many games I win because I've got no one to pitch for me, and I don't think you care with that lineup. That's the old Texas Rangers mentality. Who cares who's throwing? You got the greatest lineup in the world, but it didn't work out for the Rangers. It didn't work out, and the one thing we know about playoffs, I don't care how great your offense is. I need like 3 horses and 3 bullpen guys, and they don't have horses.
There's gonna be someone available at the trade deadline. Get that lineup.
Who do you have to trade, James? You're giving them all up for Vladdy. That's my problem here. Like Dave Stearns is incredible. Everything he did with Milwaukee is amazing. What he's building right now with the Mets, I'm on board, dude. I give everybody, especially like presidents, I give them 3-4 years. I don't give managers. You got to show me some love that first year. Second year, you better produce. Third year, you're either out. Now, presidents, I give you 4 years. I got to see a progress because you're not going to see the prospects. You're not going to see the minor league system develop. That first draft is incredibly important. Second draft, huge. But by that third, fourth year, you're going to see some of those players come up, and you're going to see changes in your organization. But you've got nothing right now from a pitching staff standpoint, like a starting rotation staff. You lost all. You hit gold last year. Just absolute gold in getting a couple guys and just recovering their careers. But you have none of that right now. But you have a lineup. You do have a lineup, and you swapped Soto for Alonso, right, so far. So unless you're going to just absolutely hit gold again with all this lineup just going crazy and just like nobody on their starting pitching staff. Here's the thing. While they had all these crazy starting pitchers do amazing last year, those guys did have a track record in the past of being really, really successful at one point in their career. Every one of those guys. They don't have that right now. So what are you going to do? Like, they don't have 4 guys that they can look at and go, okay, at least at one point, every one of these guys were the best. Like, every one of them were really good at one point. And then they hit gold again. But now, like, we're looking at that rotation going like
I think you're underselling them a little bit.
You can only hit gold so many times, my man.
Well, they have Minaya coming back. If Kodai Senga is healthy, he's a very, very good pitcher.
Giant if.
Yeah. You still have David Peterson, but I'm not talking. I don't want to talk about. They're okay. They're not great.
Clay Holmes. I dig Clay Holmes. Don't get me wrong. Like,
you got Clay Holmes. You got Blackburn coming back. You still have Montas, you have Tyler McGill, you have arms. Are they great? No, but if you have a great lineup and then later on you go and get yourself a pitcher at the trade deadline, I think they'd be okay. My whole thing is you mentioned that Vlad Guerrero, it's going to cost a lot. I don't think it's going to cost you as much as you think because it's a 1-year rental, and there's very few teams that are going to go out there and give up the farm for him, because there's not that many teams who are really going to be in contention who need Vlad. That's number one. And number two, those teams, they can't afford him, so they're not going to go crazy trading for someone that they can't keep. When the Yankees traded for Juan Soto, they gave up what they did, but they thought that they had a legitimate chance to keep him, which they did. They came in number 2 in the bidding or whatever. You may have a much easier time with Vlad, who's only looking for about 400, which is funny to say only 400.
No, he's going to end up getting well, now I don't know with first baseman and DH stuff. I don't know what they're going to get. It's crazy the pay disparity, right? So you have this like Ohtani, the $700 million. I get it, but he's like the unicorn. But then you're Soto, because you play right field and you're average to below average defender, young, great numbers, but like you got guys that are comparable from an offensive standpoint. But right, because they play first base, which I actually think is a way more important defensive position, a much more important defensive position, and you're going to pay them that much less for production. It's a weird spot for me that everybody just pretty consistent on the numbers here on what like Alonso should be making. He's as productive. He's one step below Aaron Judge on production. And it kind of blows my mind that we just blow him out of the water. Like, oh, it's like, like whatever, David, the polar bear.
David, the Mets are playing hardball because there's nobody else who wants him right now.
That's what I'm wondering. That's my bigger question is like, my biggest problem here, I think that he ran into his free agency year on a heavy first baseman market free agency year. Now, I don't know who's going to be free agents next year for Vladdy. And he might be. I'll look at it right. I'll look at it as we're talking, but he might be the only big first baseman free agent unless Alonso gets this deal with where he can walk out. But I think that was actually the thing that hurt Alonso more than anything else. Is I'm sitting here and I'm going, wait, I got Paul Goldschmidt right here. Like I'll take Paul Goldschmidt for a year for lesser money. Wait, right. I can get Christian Walker, who's been a 30+ home run guy. Okay, like I can get way less. Okay, I'll take that. And so there's other things you can do here. You can go trade for Naylor. Like what the Diamondbacks did to go get Naylor was incredible on that trade. I don't sit there and think he's on a Walker or Alonso level, but his production wise, he's done it. And so I think Alonso, all the conversation behind Alonso, a lot of that has to do with actually the market showing that there's so many other options. And Vladdy, don't get me wrong, I'll take Vladdy on the long term versus Alonso because of age. But if they were sitting at the same age and Alonso was 28 and Vladdy's 28, I might take Alonso just because he's been consistent. I know what I'm getting every single year. Now, the peaks might not be as high, but you know what? Alonso's peak was pretty close to Vladdy's peak.
It looks to me as if the Mets really only want Alonso for 1 year, and then they're going to go after Vladdy next year. That's what it looks like, because every report is saying, hey, we'll give you a 3-year deal. You can have an opt-out after the first.
Give him 35 for the first year, right? Because he's worth 35 million. I'm sorry. He's worth 35 million.
You're worth what somebody's willing to give you, and there's nobody willing to give him anything right now. That's the problem. Think about all the teams that have an opportunity to get him right now at a very reasonable deal. You're talking about, people are saying 3 years, 100 million. There should be a lot more teams going out there and getting that, but nobody's offering it to him. So if you're the Mets, why are you going to give him 35 when nobody's giving him 30?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Look, at the end of the day, I'm not going to speak for you. My idea is it's going to be Pete at first base this year, and then next year the Mets are going to go out and get Vlad. That's what I think is going to happen. Would I love to see both of them? I would love it. Not going to happen, though, Met fans. All right, let's move on to the other guy that has the baseball world talking, and he has finally made a decision on 3 teams. Roki Sasaki, the superstar of Japan that is coming over here, has narrowed it down to 3 teams. The Dodgers, which everybody knows was a contender. The Padres, which everybody knows is a contender. And of course, the Toronto Blue Jays that want everybody but get nobody. Why in the flying hell are the Toronto Blue Jays in the mix? This doesn't make any sense to me. None of these Japanese guys want to go out east. He said no to the Mets and the Yankees. Why Toronto? You tell me, why would a pitcher like this be looking at Toronto, Dave?
It's an interesting conversation, right? It's Toronto kind of throws it out there. There's always, I'm going to do this and I hate it. There's always the factor of the unknown. You never know who he grew up in Japan watching and loving. It might have been Vladimir Guerrero. It might have been that 2015-16 Blue Jays teams that were so exciting with Jose Bautista throwing the bat throw or bat toss and heard around the world against the Rangers, where they were basically like just like hairs away from being World Series champion teams. Like could have easily been back-to-back like World Series champion teams as things didn't work out, right? You just never know who he's watching. Like Juan Encarnacion was so exciting to watch those days. Tulo when he's there. I mean, there's so many different things that could have been Blue Jay, but you just never know. You never know what, dude. I love it. It's one of my favorite Instagram posts. Is you don't understand the love of between a kid and an obscure Major League Baseball player, right? Like there's nothing like it. There's nothing like that love. For some reason, you just watch the guy and you just fell in love with him. And it doesn't have to be a Japanese-born player. It could be anybody. Like kids now are growing up watching Shohei and going, I want to be Shohei. Well, you're not Japanese. And you know, who cares? It's baseball.
Wait, well, hold on a second.
You grow up and watch. You grow up and easily watch like Andres Galarraga, man. If I was in Denver as a kid, like that would have been insane to watch.
Sorry, are you saying I can't identify as Japanese? You can't tell me what I identify as.
Yeah, I tell you in your brain you can identify whatever you want, but James, you are not Japanese. But well, no, I'm just saying, like a lot of times there's this stigma that has to be who like your culture is, and it has to be that. It doesn't at all. I'm telling you, there's a whole lot of Atlanta fans, kids walking around with Acuna jerseys, and they love them. But you just never know why that connection is, and But let's not forget too, Toronto is an incredible multicultural city. Amazing city, and not just because I worked for him. I loved them traveling there. I loved them playing against them. I loved walking around the city. Summertime in Toronto, it doesn't get much better than that. Was some of the best. Rail. No idea what you're talking about, James. Just because you've done your
liar.
What? Hey, VIP cards. You got to know somebody. Anyways, so. But it's an amazing city. It's an amazing, fun city, multicultural. Like there's a huge Asian influx of people there that you would feel at home in a second. I don't care who you are, where you're from, you would feel at home in Toronto. So you just don't know that connection. Plus, you might know somebody who works there. I mean, they might have made an incredible pitch at him. They might have been on him earlier than any other team, and the scout in Japan might have been just poking, and they sold him and maybe they best friend. Dude, you just never know.
Maybe Cito Gaston is his godfather.
What if? Right? What if? There's a lot of things there that you just don't know about. Plus, at the same time, I don't blame them. It's still like an attractive proposition, right? There's still a lot of things to like about it. I just don't think they have a chance at the end of the day when you're comparing yourself to the juggernauts on the Asian market that is right now. That is San Diego with Yu Darvish and that connection there. That's an easy connection with that incredible pitcher. And then the Dodgers, dude. It's just like Dodgers. Ever since Nomo came across, they've always been a bastion for a Japanese-born player to come there and play. I'm just surprised the Mariners aren't more involved.
I agree with you. I was just thinking the same thing. Why is it that the Mariners are not one of the finalists? It's very strange to me. The Mariners, we got to talk to somebody with the Mariners very soon because I don't know what the hell is going on over there. They make no sense. You're talking about a team. I'm going to get off of Roki for a second. You're talking about a team that could use Pete Alonso? Where are you, Mariners? Where are you? Anyhow, what does your gut say? Where's Roki going?
It's LA. I don't think there's I think there's a good chance it could be San Diego. I think it's a good chance. But at the end of the day, there was a report that came out too. The one thing the Dodgers did that San Diego did not do, that Toronto did not do when he came and took a full visit of the city and everything and the stadiums, the Dodgers had players there. The Dodgers brought in players. We don't know who it was, but the Dodgers brought players there to meet with Roki, to talk to him, to hang out, to walk through the city with him, all that. The Dodgers have had a great history of creating players from within their organization. Now, they also have a problem with injuries, a very high problem with injuries, but they have created some really good prospects and brought them up, and they are Dodger players for life. I just don't see, if the money's the same and everything's the same, my only question would be for the Dodgers is, how do I fit into this rotation? What if I don't pitch well for a couple of weeks? Like, am I out? All that stuff. That's really the only question I would ever have, because you can only have so many guys in a rotation. Outside of that, I'm a Dodger.
I'm wondering if Roki is waiting to see what actually happens with Vlad. Hey, if Vlad goes to the Mets, Roki might say, there's nobody over there. I'm not going there.
Well, I think that does have a lot to do with it. I do think you're insane if you're not looking at Vladdy and understanding he doesn't have a contract signed and they are already last place in the East. Like, why am I going to waste 5 years, 6 years of my life here when we have zero signs of life?
Yeah.
Now, when I can go anywhere, I can play anywhere. Now, that's not like, dude, like, I get it. I'm a reliever. I'm just trying to find a job type of thing. Dude, hell yeah. I'm going to Toronto.
14 jobs.
I'm taking it. But like, if I can go anywhere, again, like this is my biggest problem. This is the biggest problem, the Dodgers. And if there's ever a reason the Dodgers don't sign him, the problem is Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Glasnow, Gonsolin, May, and Ohtani. There are 5 spots and they have 7 right now.
Yep.
There are 5 and they have 7, and they have 7 legit Cy Young candidates. That's my issue with the Dodgers, that they don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
They are not going to tell you an answer for it. If you ask, how is this rotation going to play out? They're going to have zero answer for you. And that's my first question for them. Why am I going to waste my time here and be the 8th man in a 5-man rotation when San Diego can give you a clear answer? And they're pretty dang good. And they competed with the Dodgers. They're right there with them, because the San Diego says, cool, we have Dylan Cease, Michael King, Yu Darvish, Randy Vasquez, and Matt Waldron.
And they have the Godfather, Yu Darvish. Big factor.
Well, I said you. Yeah.
But I just wanted to remind everybody.
They legit have 2 opportunities.
Yep.
So if they sign them, that's going to be the reason, and I don't care what else anybody says. The reason is that you're going to be able to pitch.
I'm going to put you on the spot. You said something interesting when you were saying just looking for a job, when you're a reliever, just looking for a job. If you were a free agent right now, and let's say you were the top reliever in all of baseball and everybody wanted you, which team would you want to go to, Ards?
Ooh. Wow. Great question.
I know the answer. You haven't even thought of it yet, but I have an idea. I know the answer.
Dodgers or Yankees?
Really?
There's no question. I want to sit there and watch. Why wouldn't you? Those are the best 2 teams in baseball. There's no question. Those are the best 2 teams in baseball. Okay. And I'm sitting there with both teams with really strong rotations, deep, strong rotations. They're going to have very few emergency games where you have to come in and save somebody's butt. I can do my job. I know what my job is every single day, and we're going to be in every single game.
I hate that you chose the Dodgers and the Yankees. The Dodgers I can understand, and I would love it if you were a Dodger, because I'd finally get my own.
The Mets, right?
No, I thought you were going to say the Diamondbacks, because you'd want to stay as close to home so you could see the boys. That's what I really love to
be the Diamondbacks. But again, like, the Diamondbacks check those boxes. Yeah. The Diamondbacks have arguably, I'm going to say this, I think they have the best rotation in baseball minus the Dodgers. And the Dodgers still have health questions. The Diamondbacks, if that rotation was in LA, we'd be talking about them being the best rotation in baseball. The stadium is the wild card. The offense was the number one offense in baseball. And you might have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. And so like that would be a great place. It's not a fun place to pitch as a reliever. It just isn't a fun place to pitch because you're gonna give up balls and they're gonna compete every single day, having to like be the younger child trying to beat those other teams. I love it. They're on a short second list. But the Dodgers, Yankees, they're with what they did too last year. I think the Yankees may make one more move. And they're good, but they also need relievers. Now, if this is an interesting question, though. If I was a young pitcher and I had going to get drafted and I could go anywhere I wanted from the draft standpoint, it's Tampa.
Okay.
Yeah, because they just create pitchers. They develop, create, like every pitcher that walks in that organization is better when they leave.
I started cringing. I felt a cold shiver when you said the Yankees, because now I'm thinking about, crap, I've got to go to Yankee Stadium to see my boy. I'm going to be wearing an Ardsma jersey in pinstripes. Ugh.
It won't say Ardsma, though, at least. It'll just say a number.
Oh, God, yeah, that's another thing. I couldn't even say to my friends, oh, it's Ardsma's jersey. They're going to be like, what? There's no name on. Oh, God, that would be terrible. Don't do that to me. If you make a comeback, please make it with the Mets at least.
Perfect.
Okay.
You got to get my hip replacement first.
Speaking of the New York Mets, did they actually have the MVP for the National League last year? And I'm not talking about Francisco Lindor. Nick Castellanos had some very interesting thoughts when talking about the NL MVP race.
Iglesias ended up on the Mets and had a phenomenal year.
MVP of the National League.
Why?
If you're looking at like the MVP as having the most weight on creating wins for your team, there's no other player that has had that much weight as Jose Iglesias. Because I think with him being able to come in and bring that Latin spark, knock the ice off of Lindor, finally got Vientos probably comfortable to be able to be an everyday third baseman, and now a bunch of guys that looked like they had no direction, running in all different directions in the beginning of the year. They made the playoffs, got to where they did, while the whole Mets organization had the OMG signs were everywhere from in the city to the stadium. The way I look at baseball, Jose Iglesias is unanimous National League MVP.
Come on. I mean, listen, Shohei went 50-50. You're saying that Jose Iglesias meant more to a team with his galvanizing and his number one pop song because he was able to turn around a franchise for a year?
Yes.
That's not going to work with the sabermetricians. I'm just telling you.
I'm not a sabermetrician. I'm a baseball player. I'm saying that him going to the Mets and being himself got the organization to move in one direction. Shohei Ohtani played a huge part in the Dodgers winning. I don't know if he's the sole purpose of the Dodgers moving in one direction. That doesn't mean that what Shohei did isn't record book worthy and he's not an amazing baseball player. If I'm starting a team, I pick Shohei over Jose. There's no doubt about it. I'm not stupid. But the way that I saw baseball last year through my eyeballs, Jose Iglesias is the National League MVP.
David, before I go crazy, do you want to take it, please?
He's right.
Get the hell out of here. He's right.
He's right. I think when you forget what MVP stands for, it's not best. It's not the best season.
No,
I've said this for years. I don't necessarily agree. I'm not going to necessarily take the award away from Ohtani, but the Dodgers probably still make the playoffs without him.
Okay.
The Mets probably don't make the playoffs unless OMG comes and hits and that energy and that excitement. But it's a chicken egg conversation.
Bro,
what comes
how
first?
Can anybody
the excitement
say
around the team or excitement around the song, or does the song just like when that little snowball starts rolling downhill, is the song pushing it and shoving like ice onto it and spraying it with water and getting it more like does that stoke the fire type of thing? And he's right. And Nick Castellanos sat there. Remember, he sat there all year and watched it from a division rival that was a better team, watching this Mets team change on the fly. And it wasn't Lindor all of a sudden started playing well. Alonso started going crazy. The whole team started playing at the same time. This dude started like raking and creating a culture. What he's trying to basically say, he created a culture like this. And even who was that again who was the host? Rose?
I believe so.
And like he even said, like he said, I forgot the exact term, but he talked about that he changed the organization. He even admitted it. Most valuable. Without that energy, do the Mets make the playoffs?
The Mets don't make the playoffs if you don't move Lindor into the leadoff spot and becomes the highest WAR player in the National League.
But that's chicken egg conversation, right? Because it happened at the same time. Is the energy around that him and I have been in clubhouses where one dude walks in and everything changes, good and bad. Like Milton Bradley, bad, right? Walk in, sometimes you make a change, and that's the Johnny Gomes effect. Dude, there's a reason why that dude like went from team to team to team, from World Series to World Series to World Series, because he walks in the door and everybody goes, oh shit, it's serious now. Like there's a different expectation. So when Jose Iglesias gets this thing going and gets everybody riled up and gets everybody like behind him and they're on the field singing and doing this, everybody changed and became better for it. It was the same as Diaz a couple years ago when he comes out and starts closing it and they're playing narco. Like it changed the game and everybody started rallying around it.
So what's more important, his play or the song? Because you're talking about narco, you're talking about
exactly. That's the conversation here. Welcome to the conversation.
So just change the music. It's not the player, it's the goddamn music.
3.7 WAR doesn't hurt, and that he actually produced on the field, but at the same time, like the culture of that team went from losers, fire everybody, get rid of everybody, trade Lindor, trade Alonso, he's the worst player in the league, to, oh my God, this is a good team. But that's exactly what happened. Like no BS. That happened and on the fly. And I remember you sending me text. Do you believe in this team now? They can make the playoffs now. Are you going to make the playoffs now? Well, something had to change, and this dude changed. So in the let's ask this. In the Mets clubhouse, what was the most valuable thing to happen all year? The culture change or that Lindor just started hitting?
No, it was that Grimace came to Citi Field and changed everything.
I don't know. Grimace had that thing on his neck at the same time. Like, but it's the weird thing about this. If you believe it's Grimace, if you believe it's the OMG, it is. And if you think it's just that all of a sudden the New York got a little warmer and Lindor started hitting the ball and he just started having fun again and excitement with a smile on his face. Well, something had to put that smile on his face, and it was probably just having a clubhouse that you liked.
There's no question that Iglesias was a very important part of last year's Mets team. There's no question about it. And you could tell. But the idea that he is the MVP of that team, let alone the league, is absurd. Okay.
I think it's hard.
Manaya was more important. Lindor was more valuable because they actually have a WAR. We have a way to quantify this. Wins above replacement. Who had a bigger WAR? Now, you want to if you want to create a new stat, and I was thinking about this last night, best player for the dollar. I think that could be a really cool stat where you say, okay, this guy had the best stats for a guy making this much money, and you create that. That would be cool. That could be a cool little award, but no, it's not Jose Iglesias. I'm sorry. And plus, Castellanos is a Philly. Other than Bryce Harper, they all suck.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm ready, baby.
Iglesias had the highest WAR on the entire pitching staff. Iglesias had the...
Wait. Iglesias had the highest WAR on the pitching staff?
You said Manaya had a higher WAR than Iglesias.
Okay.
So hi. Welcome to their higher WAR. It's not Manaya, by the way. It's Iglesias. Who had the second highest WAR on this team?
Probably Iglesias.
So your entire conversation just goes to crap.
Who had the highest WAR?
Lindor.
And what was his compared to Iglesias?
Double.
double.
A little bit more than double. He was tied with Vientos, but he's second. He's tied for second place on the team.
You want to tell me about valuable? How about Vientos coming out and hitting 20+ home runs and stabilizing third base?
Hold a concert at the stadium? Did Vientos create an identity? Did Vientos change the culture? If Iglesias isn't there, is Vientos just as good next year? No,
I don't know. Maybe Vientos bought hookers for the whole team and changed the clubhouse. How do I know what's going on in there?
Hey, I'll do, because some things you see. Some things when you see an entire team behind a player singing a song in the middle of the field, you see a cultural change. Those things have to happen on these teams. And I'm sorry, Vientos didn't do it, and Lindor did not do it. People weren't behind Lindor. People weren't jumping around celebrating behind him all the time. They were celebrating behind a song. They created an identity. And the problem is we sit there and go, his play on the field, his play on the field, his play on the field. It wasn't all about that. It was about changing the moment you showed up to the field. We are different now. And it was because a lot of it had to do with him and his cultural change to that team. I can't argue against Shohei's impact on 50-50, historic stuff, Aaron Judge, historic stuff. Historic. Those teams still make the playoffs. And they still have probably long runs. Maybe not. Dodgers might have been interesting because the so many injuries. That's really it, though. That's the only other argument. They still had an entire Cy Young winning pitching staff. They still had 4 MVPs on the team. Like, let's pump the brakes on how incredible one player was when you have 4 MVPs on one team, and that's not the pitching staff. At the end of the day, that team sucked. They sucked. And then all of a sudden, they start singing one song together, and everybody, the entire city gets behind them, and then they're good. And you sit there and go, what's more valuable? Somebody hitting a little bit? Every team has somebody hitting a little bit. And they had guys hitting when they still sucked. And then all of a sudden they're really good, and they're all together singing one song. You go, oh, that has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it. That has everything to do with it.
This is why I love social media and why I love doing the show on YouTube, because people can actually tell us that you're wrong and I'm right. So please go into the comments. Let us know who's right and who's wrong. You can tweet us at the DA53. You can tell DA that he's an idiot. I'm at James the Greek 22, at Man Cave Sports Show. Just let us know, because I'm furious with David right now that he has this thought process. All right, let's go from the pretender MVP to the real MVP, Mr. Shohei Ohtani, because it's not an episode of Closers unless we talk about my favorite player, Shohei Ohtani. And we saw a beautiful tweet the other day that was comparing Shohei Ohtani to the great Babe Ruth. David, tell us about those numbers.
All right, so Hector Gomez, it's really interesting how the comparison here at the point in their careers, right? So simple, you see it there right there, but Babe Ruth, 159 home runs in his first 674 career games with a 35-18 record in 455 career innings pitched. Basically, that's exactly the same as Ohtani. 160 home runs in 674 games. So exactly the same amount of games. One more home run. He's obviously better than Babe Ruth. And then the same amount of wins with one more loss. So he sucks in the same exact amount of innings pitched. This is absolutely insane. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to throw this out there. I'm going to throw it right against the wall. Just like Babe Ruth, Ohtani's pitching career is going to come to an end very soon, and his hitting career is just going to start going crazy like it did last year. Boom! I said it. Somebody had to say it, but it's bound to happen.
I don't agree that his pitching career is going to end soon. I do believe that he is destined to be a reliever. I really do believe that. Obviously, because they changed the rules for him, they're going to try to figure out a way to do that. And when you throw that hard and you're that good, and we've seen it in plenty of playoff series, sometimes you just grab that starter and you put him in the end, and he's going to be the one to close it out. He did it against Mike Trout in the WBC. That's where I think Ohtani's going to end up. But I'm going to ask you a bigger question right now. Who you got? Ruth or Ohtani?
As a better baseball player?
No, just right now, if you were starting a baseball team, they're both about to get drafted or whatnot, who you got?
Oh, dude. Oh. All right. If you're comparing it to obviously the light competition when they played, you're taking Babe Ruth. I am taking Babe Ruth. I think there's two. I think somebody's gonna figure out Shohei and start figuring the league's gonna figure out a little bit. Or I don't think the numbers are sustainable. Babe Ruth did it though. Like he did it forever. He did it when nobody when 20 home runs was insane. He was hitting 40, 50, 60. And I don't know if I don't know if it's going to be sustainable. And I don't think he's going to be able to pitch long. 2 Tommy John surgeries. The list is so short of guys that have ever had Tommy John twice. And there's yet to be anybody successful.
This one is really tough. The thing that really gets me with Babe, and not a lot of people talk about it, is he was a left-handed hitter playing at Yankee Stadium when down the right field line was 200 feet. I mean, I could throw it over that wall to hit a home run. Does that change anything in your mind when you think about that?
It wasn't that short. But again, it was old Yankee Stadium right field line. What?
It was 220, 210, something like that. It was that short.
I still don't think it was that short. Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, I'm looking at it right now. I'm pulling up. God, Google is so amazing, right? Could you imagine we used to be able to talk crap about this?
Yeah.
Back in the day. 295.
295?
295, 490 in dead center.
Wait, the older one before the
old
one that
Yankee Stadium, 1928, 295, 350 to the gap. I'd say 350 to the true right left gap, 429 to the center field right field gap, 490 to dead center, 460 to left right.
I mean,
gap.
nobody was hitting it over there. But what was the shortest
402 in a spot where most stadiums now are 350 on left field, and then 301 down the line.
What was the shortest point?
295.
Didn't you say that there was one point that was shorter?
No. 350, 295, 350, 429, 490, 460, 402, 301. Still 295 compared to today's age. Totally different. But I
stand corrected. I thought it was a lot shorter than that.
What?
I stand corrected. I thought it was a lot shorter.
Yeah, but the thing about it is it's still 20 feet shorter than most stadiums in right field line, and 310 is pretty standard, right? And he was swinging an absolute log compared to pitchers throwing comparably very slow. At the same time, man, there's 2 players. The question would be who would you take, Bonds, Ohtani, or Ruth? I'm still taking Babe Ruth probably. And a Bonds is I would still take Bonds over Ohtani. I would take Bonds over Ohtani any single day. There's nothing like it. Ohtani doesn't get walked the way Bonds did. He's not on
steroids.
What?
Pre or post steroids, Bonds?
Ooh, pre-Bonds is Ohtani now.
Oh, he's not.
Pre-Bonds is basically Ohtani.
When did Bonds ever go 50-50 pre-steroids?
When did he need rules changes to go 50? I mean, he was 40-40.
Okay.
Pre-steroids.
He never hit 50 pre-steroids, though.
What?
He never hit 50 home runs pre-steroids.
He hit 40 every year. That's every year.
There's a difference between 40 and 50, and you know that.
Yeah, but let's play this out a little bit and see where this keeps going. I think Ohtani can do what Bonds did pre-steroid. Obviously the numbers prove he can, but he has to do it 2 more years.
Yeah. I mean,
that's actually a great question. Is pre-steroid Bonds or Ohtani better players? And actually, I would like to see all those numbers because Ohtani probably is, but Ohtani came over older. So you have to play that factor in with years of experience and yada, yada, yada. But the pitching obviously takes its toll on you. That's a better argument because Ohtani, Ruth.
All right, I'm gonna throw one last thought at you. Which twosome would you rather have? I'm going to give you Ohtani and Ichiro, or Ruth and Pete Rose.
Ruth, Pete Rose. You could give me a lesser hitter than Ruth, and I'm still taking that one. There won't be somebody on the field after Pete Rose destroys everybody going around the bases.
Sorry, I would take the Japanese guys. That's just me.
Oh, the thing about it was Ichiro was amazing, but there wasn't that second level of like I have to score. Like Pete Rose had this weird obsession with being the best at everything, right? And like the most aggressive and hustling, and like Ichiro wasn't going to sacrifice his body to get a double. Pete Rose is going to take out the second baseman in case he could and he was probably out anyways, right? Like there was just something about Charlie Hustle with what he did on the field that you can't. Pedroia might be the closest, and he still wasn't even close,
right?
That I saw, where just this crazy mentality of I have to be the best.
Oh, actually,
Ichiro was the best hitter, pure hitter, and like was fast, but he wouldn't steal unless he knew he had it. Pete Rose would steal just to steal. Let's go.
Well, if I had to compare one player to Pete Rose, and I hate that I'm going to say this right now, it's the devil.
Lenny?
Yeah.
That's a great call. Lenny was Pete Rose.
Lenny Dykstra is who we're talking about. Lenny
Dykstra was Pete Rose with less talent.
But more juice.
Yes, and then the juice screws out his head, and
he
probably gambled just as much. Who knows?
Yeah, but it was legal gambling. It's called margins. Anyhow, I hate to say it. Oh God, as the number one Ohtani fan, I'd probably still take Babe Ruth, but it's very, very close. Very close.
Good call. Safe call.
Yeah. All right. Since we're talking about greatness, what do you say we get to this week's Mount Rushmore? And this week we are on to the Atlanta Braves. David, take it away. Who's your... See, that's on me. I jumped the gun. What's wrong with me?
So disappointed, though. There's no hair. Where's the flow, Alex?
Clippopotamus Jones, you got to up your game. All right. Who is your first Atlanta Brave Mount Rushmore player?
First, I want to tighten this up a little bit here. So I want to look classy for this group because this is a very classy group. Right. And I want to make sure in case they ever ask me to go golfing, I am ready. No undershirt. I'm ready. I look good. Got my slacks on, my putter ready. Number one of the greatest pitchers of all time, could be on two lists, but he is an Atlanta Brave for life. Greg Maddux.
Greg Maddux, one of the greatest pitchers ever. Didn't have to throw super high velo, went in and out, frustrated you, complete games, painting the corners, back-to-back Cy Youngs, great defense, just an incredible, incredible pitcher. As a Met fan, he absolutely crushed me, but it was very difficult to hate him because he was just so good. And if you ever want to laugh, go on YouTube and search for Greg Maddux and Chris Bryant when Greg Maddux completely ruined Chris Bryant's day by going undercover, put on a whole bunch of makeup, and made him look foolish with those curveballs.
Well, the beautiful part about it is Greg's dirty. Like his go-to move is some dirty stuff in the locker room. It's so funny. So when he gets dressed up and he just plays himself, you would never know it's Greg Maddux. That's the professor that beer belly. It's absolutely hilarious. So yeah, check that out. Well, he was a great pitcher with the Cubs, young, developing, incredible pitcher. But then he became one of the greatest with the Braves. What's funny, he was 8th in WAR in Braves history, and that just speaks to volumes that he was even able to be 8th, knowing how many years he spent with the Cubs before and after the Braves, and then like he still had like 6 more years after that. Could do anything with the baseball.
Videos right now, if you're watching us on YouTube, just look at where these pitches are. Look where the catcher was setting up. He was, look at this. He's outside of the zone, and Maddox just puts it right on the black and makes everyone look foolish.
That's the thing about him. Like, I feel like that trio of him, Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine, Smoltz, sorry. Like, Glavine would fool you with fastball, changeup, pitch inside, fastball, changeup. Smoltz just had the crazy stuff. And Maddox was just so good about the black and knowing exactly what to pitch to you. One of the things he always told me was the best advice I ever got in pitching: watch the hitter. The hitter will tell you what to pitch next. And he lived by it. He wasn't this amazing, smartest person in the world, but he simplified everything so well that he was so good.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at these videos right now that we have playing, you know, he's putting it right on the edge and these guys are nubbing it. And of course he won Gold Gloves because they're just hitting it right back to him in weak fashion.
And still one of the best commercials of all time too. The Chicks Dig the Long Ball, where him and Glavine start bulking up to hit home runs and girls start going crazy for him.
Yes. Yep. All right. Who do we have next on your Mount Rushmore, Mr. Aardsma?
One of the best third basemen of all time, Chipper Jones.
Chipper Jones, this son of a gun, named his child Shay to stick it to Mets fans. How do you like that?
Is that real?
That is real.
Oh, that's awesome. Good for you, Larry. Good for you.
Larry Chipper Jones. Have you had any interaction with Chipper? Have you faced him? Give me a little bit of Chipper.
I faced him one time. James, how did that go? What do you think?
If you're smiling and saying James, I have a feeling you struck him out.
Got him. Now I might have given up 2 runs right before it, but I got him. 2004 in Atlanta in that beautiful, beautiful ballpark, Turner Field. That was sarcasm. No, I got him, but again, that was just frustration and young anger, throwing as hard as I could at top of the zone. He was absolutely incredible as a hitter, incredible. He was very, very good defensively, but really switch hitter that just set the tone with the Braves team with that lineup. Yes, they had some great players around him. Andrew Jones, to name one. There was a lot of great players around him. But, man, he was just the cornerstone of one of the greatest runs in Major League Baseball history as far as a team and dominance of a division, dominance of a league. Yes, they only got the one ring, but they were one of the best teams forever. He could do kind of a little bit of everything. He'd hit home runs, hit gaps or power, base hit, would take a walk. He was an all-around type of player. That just provided everything they could possibly provide for those teams.
I look at Chipper and I think a better version of Mark Teixeira.
Yes, absolutely better, healthier version of Mark Teixeira was Chipper early on in his career with the Rangers, and and then started having some of those issues, some of the injuries, and just wasn't that. But like, yes, that is honestly, I was thinking that, and I didn't say it. Great. That's a perfect comparison.
And Larry, if you're watching, I had the pleasure of talking to you a couple of times. You were always an absolute gentleman. And even though you destroyed my Mets, it was a pleasure watching you play. You were an incredible, incredible ball player and deserve your Hall of Fame accolades. All right. Number 3 on our list for the Mount Rushmore of the Braves. Let's go to Warren Spahn. Tell me about Warren Spahn, David.
Warren Spahn, absolute stud of a pitcher, almost 100 WAR while he was there and with Milwaukee. And I don't know, did he pitch? I don't think did he pitch in Atlanta? Let me look.
Not 100%
he never
sure.
pitched in Atlanta. In Milwaukee, he just man, the dude won 363 games. 245 losses, but 363 wins, was just absolutely dominant. CGs, like he led the league in CGs like 8 times, 9 times, something like that. Was incredibly dominant And again, 3.03 ERA, a 1.1 WHIP over his career, 2 ERA titles, led the league in wins 8 different times. Cy Young winner. I mean, who knows if they even had Cy Young when he had started his career, how many other Cy Youngs he would have won. I don't even know when they started Cy Young, but he won it in 57, won a World Series, obviously a Hall of Famer, numbers retired, and one of the best players ever to put on a Braves uniform, whether that be in Boston or Milwaukee.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I really have to learn more about. I don't know too much about Warren Spahn. I've seen, the stats, but as far as I haven't seen enough video. What kind of pitcher was he? Do you know, like, what he had in his arsenal? Was he a fastball guy? Was he the kind of guy that was going to fool you? Tell me a little bit.
I know, obviously, lefty. I know he did have a good fastball. That's one thing I heard. I don't think it was this crazy overpowering fastball, but I did hear a very good power fastball that he could use like both sides of the plate and wasn't scared to get you off the plate.
Cool. All right. Finally, I mean, can there be a Mount Rushmore without this gentleman? We're talking about the great Hank Aaron. David, take it away.
Obviously, one of the greatest hitters of all time, let alone organization. If you're talking about a Mount Rushmore of Mount Rushmores, he would be on it. 755 home runs. That number's like locked in your brain all the time. 305 batting average over his career, 143 WAR. I think he might be top couple players in WAR in history of baseball. Hammer and Hank. I mean, the dude did everything. I know I don't think he's anymore, but I think he led in RBIs, most RBIs, or number 2 in RBIs for over his career.
He was the leader in RBIs when he retired.
When he retired, okay, so he was MVP in 57, 3 Gold Glove awards, 2 batting titles, World Series champion, and none of that that pales in comparison to what he did to break Babe Ruth's home run record. Personally, just having to face the scrutiny, being an African American player in the league at that time, and breaking Babe Ruth's record, like, I can't imagine what he faced every day. One of my favorite books as a kid growing up was Hammer, his book. And it was amazing to read about that. And you don't get it quite as a kid to understand how horrible and hateful people were, and that he was able to put that uniform on every day and still perform.
And one of the most enduring images from the history of baseball was when he broke Babe Ruth's record, and he was rounding third base, and those guys came out of the stands to pat him on the back as he was running from third to home, which would never happen today. And I'm surprised it happened then, considering how many death threats he got. But it was so cool just seeing, the white guy patting him on the shoulder as he's rounding third, going to home. I mean, just what an iconic image that was.
Absolutely iconic. It's kind of like when you see the movie 42 and Pee Wee Reese, was it Pee Wee Reese that puts his arm around Jackie? I think it
was Ralph Branca.
Whoever it was, puts his arm around Jackie and kind of showing acceptance. And those guys coming on there, first thought in my mind when I see a video, they're gonna stab him, but then they just kind of congratulate him, and it's that moment where you go, oh, people care. Some people care and have accepted him, and it's wonderful to see after the fact, so many years later, that it's just like you did it. Like there's an equal representation across the world, knowing like you were the greatest home run hitter of all time. Like, you're the king. Yep. Without ever thinking about anything else. Like, you did it.
And what's even crazier is he never hit 50 home runs. Just consistently every year, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, and just racked them up. Great player.
I'm saying.
All right. Before we end the show, we have to end on a very sad.
Wait. Oh man, I don't want to stop you. There's 2 more things.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me.
That's a tough one, because we do gotta hit that at the end.
Yeah. But please go ahead. There was one player that you said has a chance to get into that, and one player that just missed it.
Absolutely. Okay, so Ronald Acuna Jr. as my first, like the player on the team currently that has an opportunity to make this Mount Rushmore. And here's the thing: out of the players that we've talked about so far in this, he has a legit chance to one day maybe be on this list. Don't get me wrong, like,
but who does he kick off?
What?
Who does he kick off the list?
That's the problem. Like, to me, the first player to be able to kick off is probably Chipper. Probably Chipper over Hank. Okay, Hank's first.
Yeah, Hank's there.
Hank. Then now you got Greg Maddux and Warren Spahn.
I think Warren is the guy you would have to kick off.
363 wins.
I know.
I mean, like, Greg Maddux, like, he doubled Greg Maddox's WAR basically. Like, and again, as a Brave, his impact as a Brave, Warren Spahn had much more bigger impact, I think, over the long term. I mean, 363 wins basically, and almost all of them as a Brave, versus, Greg having probably 150 as a 175 probably as a Brave. I mean, it's tough to sit there like over their careers. Maybe Greg had a bigger impact, especially on baseball and pitching, but that's a tough one. Now, Ronald Acuna, again, has to be healthy, but like what he did in 23 was 73 home runs, 41 home runs, 73 stolen bases, 41 home runs, basically led the league in almost every offensive stat there was. Absolutely insane. Rookie of the year, 4-time All-Star already in his 7 years. If he stays healthy, that dude could do it. He doesn't even need to go crazy. He just needs to be himself. He could do it. And then the first one's out. Dude, this is an incredible organization with a huge history. Eddie Matthews and then John Smoltz. John Smoltz is amazing, insane with what he did. Absolutely insane. Eddie Matthews is arguably like should be on the list. It was hard to not have him on this list. Like 2,223 games for the Braves over 15 years, 493 home runs as a Brave, 273 batting average, 1,300 RBIs, which is crazy because Hank Aaron had 2,200 RBIs. 12 All-Star teams, champion, Hall of Famer, all of that stuff. One of the best players in the history of baseball too. So, and I have a hard time with that, but I do think Chipper deserves it for the run they made in the 90s, but I would almost put him above Chipper.
Yep. All right. I alluded to it, and unfortunately we're going to end the show on a somber note because earlier today we lost Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker. And I know there are a lot of people who don't even know that he played professional baseball, but he was the voice of baseball for many years. And for me, he was introduced to me through one of the greatest sports movies of all time. Alex, play the clip.
Hello, Harry fans. Doyle. Welcome back to Major League Baseball. Sort of. Paid attendance today is 1,412.
1,412.
Some of them were driven away by a little 10-run first inning the Red Sox put up. Take over, Monty. I'm in the bag.
Should be the Rays announcer.
The runner at second. Here's the pitch to Shaw. Swung on and belted to deep right field. Back goes Serrano. That baby is out of here. That looked like the Terminator, only slower. Maybe it was his out-of-stater, or it could have been the hibernator. That baby is definitely going away for the winter. Whatever for Vaughn, it might be see you later. He's probably going to become a spectator.
And finally, the best call in Major League history.
His first offering, just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches. Boy, how can these guys lay off pitches that close?
It's like watching David Arsma pitching.
Amazing.
Oh, and let's not forget about the fact that he was part of WrestleMania. He was on Mr. Belvedere, which was a huge show in the 80s. There you go. You can see it right there. Bob Uecker, we're gonna miss you, pal. You got any good Uecker stories? I've never, even though I tried, I never had the opportunity to interview or speak to him. You can imagine a lot of people put in their interview requests for him.
Oh, without a doubt. If you have a chance, there's a great documentary they got a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, maybe last year, about him. They had a good, nice little, I think it was MLB Network did it. It's simple, it's short, it's quick. It doesn't do him enough justice with how amazing his career is, but it hits it really quick and it kind of gets you the gist of him. If you're a Milwaukee fan, you obviously know him as the voice of the radio voice of the Brewers forever. Short career, like it's so funny because like you sit there and go, okay, he played 6 years, obviously played a lot minor league time. We all played minor league time before that, but wasn't all that successful. I actually thought he was a lot better as a baseball player. I always thought he was this great baseball career, and everybody knew Bob Uecker. How can you not know Bob Uecker? The dude played like 800, and he had 843 plate appearances. You know, it's like he didn't have a big impact on the game on a playing standpoint, but then he created this personality off the field where he was bigger than the game. He represented the game. Mr. Baseball had a -1 WAR. Mr. Baseball had a -1 WAR over his career. He was less than a replacement player, but he is so much more as a man and as representation of baseball. I never personally,
he was the Jose Iglesias of his time.
Right, over of his 40 years or whatever of his time. I never had an opportunity to meet him. I absolutely wish, but yes, my introduction to him was Major League, the movie, and then my dad immediately is like, okay, he used to be in all these Miller Lite commercials, and my dad always told me he missed the tag, and I never even knew what that was from. And so I'm always sitting there like, oh, he missed the tag. And I'm like, and then now with YouTube and everything, you get to go back and watch all those commercials. He created this identity of him being this famous baseball player that nobody knew. And it was the funniest thing ever. And then he goes on and finds his calling in the booth and acting. Absolutely amazing. And it's a sad day for baseball, and we will miss him dearly.
Yeah, and if you guys have any good Bob Uecker stories that you want to share, make sure you put them in the comments section. We'd love to hear, your thoughts on the life and career of Bob Uecker. And unfortunately, that's the way we're going to end the show this week. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and we'll talk to you next week. And Bob Uecker, rest in peace.